Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Build Your Village series. I have another conversation interview today with the lovely Gabrielle Taylor. I'm really excited to bring her on today. I'm excited for you to meet her. She's somebody I've collaborated with in the Raising Wild Ones book that has come out about raising kids and in a more conscious way. And that's really, for those of you who've been listening to Build Your Village, that's what this series is about, is raising kids in a conscious way and doing our work in the world to raise that level of awareness and awakening on the planet right now. And so Gabrielle is definitely one of those. And I'm going to share with you a little background about her, just read her some details about her life, and then we'll jump in and you'll get to know her even more and how she raises her wild ones. All right, so Gabrielle Taylor, she believes that our spiritual longings and aspirations are a driving force towards healing, wholeness, and growth. Each person has the potential to heal and thrive, as well as find meaning and fulfillment in their lives and relationships. Gabrielle is a psychotherapist, coach, author, and group facilitator, and has been helping couples and families for over 15 years to navigate challenges, cultivate closeness and connection, and repair the rifts and ruptures that inevitably arise in their relationships. She draws upon her own experience as well as research and an in-depth training to help them get to this other side of feeling stuck, alone, and frustrated, so that they can once again experience intimacy, tenderness, and build true partnership and love in their relationships. Gabrielle's a mother of 2 grown children and lives with her husband in Quebec's Eastern Township. So welcome, Gabrielle. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Sarah. I'm so happy to be here talking with you today.
Yeah, this is great. So you're in Quebec, and I just want to give everyone listening a little bit more background about what being a mom for you looks like right now. So your kids are grown. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Well, neither of my kids is living at home right now, so we're empty nesters, quote unquote. So yeah, it's very different being a mom of grown adult children. Like my kids I still call them kids, but they're well on into their late 20s and 30. Actually, my oldest is 30. So
Okay.
yeah. So
Are they close by, or are they just gone and away?
actually, they're both living quite far. So yeah, I don't get to see them a lot, but I'm on the phone with them quite a bit. So that's really nice. Yeah. So at this point, it's like kind of you're happy. I'm happy when they call. I'm happy when they call, and it's like they're doing well. That's the greatest pleasure, I think, for a mom.
Yeah. And so you've been through a lot with your kids then, I'm sure, over the 30 years. And you started your psychotherapy business, was it 15 years ago? Is that right?
Yeah, actually graduated 2006, but
Okay.
I've been working specifically with couples and families for 15 years. But yeah, I went back to school when my kids were in elementary school, I guess. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And I did a master's in counseling, and then I did family and couples therapy. I was really drawn towards that. So yeah.
What were you doing before? Were you working when your kids were younger? Or were you doing anything else? Or did you just decide, I want to go and do something for myself now?
Yeah, I was working. I was actually working in a school library, and it just wasn't for me. So I kind of searched I knew I wanted to do something more. And then I found this really good program that wasn't too far from where I lived. And so, yeah, I felt really, I've always been a good listener. And so, yeah, it just felt like a natural step for me to
Mm-hmm.
go back to school and study, to be a psychotherapist.
How did you balance that? I want to know what it looked like for you when your kids were younger. So they were teenagers, I'm guessing, about.
They were actually still like in elementary. They're still quite young when I went back to school.
Okay.
I guess 7, 8 or 9 years old, something like that. Because my children are close in age. They're only a year and a half apart. Yeah, so it was there was a lot of juggling. I had weekend courses, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So my husband always had to, maybe make sure he was available to watch the kids while I went to, and I had to do all my writing and juggle, and I was still working part-time. So yeah, it was a lot, but I was very, very motivated. So yeah.
And were
I
they,
really wanted to learn about, healing and relationships and, listening and how, like, psychotherapy. I was really passionate about it. So,
yeah, tell me, how was it with balancing your kids in that? Did they kind of know what you were doing and were they a part of that in some way, or did they influence you wanting to go into that area
I
of
mean, I think it had a really big impact on them. I mean, I have to ask them, but I did get a sense that the fact that they saw me go back to school and pursue a project that I really wanted to do and achieve it, like, I think that kind of gave them the idea that they could do it too. I
yeah,
don't know, it was a kind of modeling, I guess, if
so
you
good.
will.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so did they I mean, they had to cooperate in the sense that, they knew when I was, let's say, writing papers and doing all that, I had to focus. So, they're, I don't know, they just knew that I was doing that. I was kind of always doing that
What
on
was,
Sundays and weekends and evenings. And,
yeah,
sometimes I remember one time I was sitting there and the computer at that point was in our dining room, and they had friends over and they were running outside. I think it was this time of year, they were jumping, making leaf piles and everything. And I was trying to focus on this paper that I had. It's kind of like, oh, but yeah, I don't know how I did it, but I did it.
hmm. And since you're kind of recalling some of the what happened when you were in that experience with them when they're younger, if you go back even further, when they were really young, was there any experiences for yourself that you can remember that you had to almost like reparent or decide that, you know what, this is how I was parented, but this is not working for my kids, and so I'm going to have to do things differently? Or did your kids test you in that way? Or I don't know if test is the right word, but just challenge you in the way of really reevaluating how you thought being a mom was going to look, or no?
Oh, definitely to the core, I'd say. Like, it was just it's even hard to find words for it because I think it goes so deeply. We go so deep, the way we parent, we learn how to parent in our family of origin.
Yeah.
So, and much of that is not conscious. It's just like and I don't think there's anything that can really prepare you to be a parent. Like, um, I mean, yes, there are tons of things that can help prepare you to be a parent, but in the sense of once you become parent, it's just like you're launched into that, you're thrown into that experience, and you don't really know, like, first of all, you don't know what your child is going to be like. And I noticed with my children, they're like very different from each other
They were.
from birth,
Hmm.
Yeah. So my son was like very active and curious, and my daughter is curious as well, but she's much quieter and observant. So they're very, very different. And so the way we responded to them was also very different,
Mm.
and what it brings out of you and what what it triggers in you and what, and there are all these family patterns and stuff that rise to the surface, I think.
I know. Isn't that
So
amazing how they just get reflected to you through your kids? It's like, oh, I do have to work on that.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge opportunity for growth. And I do believe our children are our teachers as well.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have to provide structure and guidance and all that. It's not like, but they have so much to teach us if we're willing to learn.
Can you tell me a bit more about your style of parenting? Because I've been interviewing people all different, spectrums of how they raise their kids or how they supported their kids. What did your experience with that look like? Were they in regular school or did you homeschool them?
I didn't homeschool them. I had a good friend here who lived near me who homeschooled, and
Mhm.
but yeah, I was home for the first 4 years until first 5 years, I guess, until I was pretty much home, so full time, which I do not regret. Like, It was a conscious choice because I knew that those years would never come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone says, "Oh, it goes so fast," but when you're in it, it doesn't feel like it's going that fast.
Yeah.
Every day was kind of like an adventure, and I have such fun memories. I also have memories some days where, I didn't get a lot of sleep and I was like lonely and, tired.
Mm-hmm.
And my parenting style, I'm very caring, I'm very hands-on, but I think and I was just writing about this somewhere else. Um, I There was a particular moment, and I've written about this in a few places actually. It's this one Halloween where I went out. I love Halloween trick or treating, and we preparing costumes, and you know how children just love like that. It's just so much fun.
Yeah.
So I came home from work. My kids were like 6, 7 years old, something like that, 7, 8. I can't remember exactly. And I was always tired then. Like it was like the coming home from work, picking up the kids, then laundry, snacks, meals. It just felt so overwhelming.
Endless.
So that was one of my big things, was I just felt constantly overwhelmed, and I kind of lost myself in the mix. With
Mm-hmm.
my job, I was working as a school librarian. I didn't really like it. We were just in this routine, this family routine, and I kind of lost a lot of my energy and just myself. So when we went out trick-or-treating, this family friend, we went down the street and opened the door, and he said, "Oh," to my kids, he said, what are you? You're dressed as a pirate and a witch, so cute." And then he looked at me and he said, "What are you dressed as?" A haggard, worn out mom. And I was just like,
Oh no.
what? And he didn't mean it. I was a type of person who always making like comments like that, but it wasn't malicious.
Uh-huh.
But it was
It's
like,
like,
it
yeah.
just reflected back to me like, oh my gosh, I guess it shows how like tired and worn out I am. And so yeah, that was a moment of reflection, and it hit home like, um, I've kind of lost myself,
How are you
and
feeling then?
what's that?
How are you feeling then? You were saying overwhelmed, but how did you feel when you realized that like that was being reflected back to you? Did you start to think, okay, what am I going to do different, or what was
Yeah,
going?
that started a whole process of, I'm not happy, somehow. I mean, I love my kids to smithereens. That wasn't the question. It's not like I didn't want to be a mom or whatever, but I just felt really stuck in many ways, and I had lost myself. So that was a few years, a journey, until I decided to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I started meditating again, because in my younger years, I spent 3 years in a monastic community.
Mm-hmm.
I had been to art school, I had been to India, and had done all these things. And it's like, I think there's a phenomenon that happens, to a lot of women and to moms and women. Like the moment you get into a committed, serious relationship or get married, your identity, there's a societal influence that comes in, and suddenly you're cast in this role.
The
Uh,
expectations
yeah,
sort
there
of.
are expectations. I think it's very like, I was totally not aware of it, so I think that's what happened to me. I was cast in the role of wife, mom. I'm living in a small town,
Did you grow
so
up in Quebec as well, where you are
yeah.
now?
No, I grew up in Montreal. Well, I did grow up in Quebec, but I grew up in a big city.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So so I just, my identity prior to that was just kind of forgotten about and lost.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think I had to cycle back and rediscover myself.
Do you
You
feel like
know,
you found some of that while you were in school again, going back to follow your passion? Did a lot of
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a lot about passion, isn't it? Right? Like, it's so easy to lose yourself as a mom, because I mean, you love your kids and you want to take care of them and you want to be there and you want to do everything for them that you can,
Yeah.
but so I guess the lesson in all that, like I've just been kind of all over the place, but is really to not to you need to focus on yourself as well and follow your passion and nurture yourself and
Yeah.
yeah,
I think I've come to
be a
the
person.
realization now that
Mhm.
I think I've really come to that realization. I've known it, but as a mom, it's different with the, taking care of yourself first. Like with other people, it's always been easier for me to think, okay, I need to nurture myself first. But with a kid, it's so easy to let that go, right? Your own self-care and even being something I teach, I'm like, oh, that really can go. And you have to almost repattern your programming around how important that level of self-care is because it makes everyone happy, right? There's
Exactly. When you're happy, I mean, it's such a great, it benefits your kids and your partner or whoever, everyone else in your life.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when you're drained out, it's like you can do everything, the right way and so on, but you're not really bringing yourself and your presence and your joy and your all that good stuff to your family. So yeah, you're robbing them. I mean, they're being robbed of that.
I absolutely agree. And
Yeah.
I will be completely transparent and say that's been a challenge for me is coming back to that and being really in my joy again and getting out of that cycle of overwhelm and being burnt out and stressed out with all the stuff, right? And so you mentioned meditation, and I think that is so powerful to find your practice of what that looks like. So, do you mind sharing do you still do the same kind of meditation? Do you change it up? Like, what does your practice look like?
Um, well, I meditate every day in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't necessarily do the silent meditation that I did years ago. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like 30 minutes or just silent meditation with a mantra, basically. So now I'll just sit quietly, but I'll do in the summer, because here in Canada, like we have very harsh winters where you can't go outside barefoot and stuff like that. But in the
Yeah.
summer, I go outside here behind my house. And when the weather's nice, I stand on the grass or I sit on the grass and then I do like some energy work.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's a mix of different things. And I just come to stillness and I feel into my body and I breathe and I do different yoga things and so on and so forth. So
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, and really it makes a difference because uh, I find, especially with virtual work, and I'm working mostly virtually right now, it's
Right.
the computer has I love it. I love the fact that I can connect with you. I can connect with my clients. And so it's amazing. The computer is a portal, right, to the world. However, it's disembodied. The virtual reality is disembodied compared, and I feel like I need to really
Yeah.
breathe and feel myself in my body and come back to it and just allow energy to flow. And
Completely.
yeah,
Yeah. So that's a priority. And I can imagine because you are also working with people's energy and you get to get into their stuff, right? That's carrying a big space that you're holding. So I could see how prioritizing those practices are really important. Can you tell us more about the work you're doing with couples and like has that evolved? Were you always working with couples or did you get like what happened?
well, when I finished my master's degree, there was an opportunity to join continue my training in couples and family therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I didn't understand why. I just felt really drawn to that. And I think I've always, I care about families, and I care about, and having also struggled in my own relationship through different things. I've been married for 32 years now. So we've been through several cycles.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I know what it's like to be in that painful place where you care about this other person or these people within your family so much, and yet there's like you hit a roadblock, or you don't know how to communicate anymore, or you feel maybe really angry, or they maybe feel angry at different times, and there's all this stuff going on, their family dynamics. And so to be able to help people through that, I mean, I've gone through my own things where I had to find the pathway forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of our deepest wounds come from our families and family dynamics. So it can be very, very painful. And so for me, if I'm able to bring hope and relief and help people find a pathway forward through
Mm-hmm.
that, like, to me, it's the most rewarding thing in the world. So I've gone on to study, like I've done a lot of different trainings, and most recently I completed a training in relational life therapy with Terrence Real, and which is amazing. Is an amazing approach.
Can you say that again? The name of it?
Relational life therapy.
Relational life therapy. Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. And so I've specialized in working with couples.
Mm.
And I do some family as well. Like I often will have adult parents, adult children with parents, or teenage children with their parents. And
You work in a group setting with them or individually?
no, it's often like I'll have the mother and the daughter, or the father and the son or daughter,
Yeah.
duo like that. Yeah.
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 That's a lot. And as you're talking, one of the things that comes up with like triggers and trauma from familial experiences, I think it really is what comes to surface in our parenting is whatever has not been healed in your family experience. It's almost like you get the perfect child to show you that, right? It's like it's almost like you're being forced to face that. So I would love if you're open to sharing what was maybe something you've how you help a client getting through if they have a trauma from reparenting, they need to reparent some of their past experience, or maybe your own personal experience of realizing, okay, I had this experience as a kid and it's coming through in my parenting. I need to do something about this. Like, do you have a memory or awareness of that?
Um, well, I mean, I'll just say, I guess one of the a broad stroke or broad, theme that I experienced was an experience that really marked me. My mom died at 59 years old from leukemia.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like an extraordinary person, an artist, and she's highly sensitive, and just she was adored by many and all. And so
Yeah.
it was a very painful experience losing my mom. I was still in my 20s, and I hadn't had children yet.
Yeah.
And I felt when I became a mom as well, and I felt so burnt out and tired and overwhelmed. I had this sense that I was um, like continuing her legacy. And I mean, she had a beautiful legacy, but also we were five kids, and she just gave of herself and gave of herself and gave of herself.
Mm.
And I almost felt like she gave her whole life away. Like it was like a pattern that, yeah, there was not a lot of energy left over for herself. And it almost felt like that's a legacy that went back, generations.
Yeah, you could sense that.
So
And
I,
showing
I
up from
felt, what's
giving,
that?
so it was showing up in your life, over giving and giving more of you than you really had.
Yeah, yeah. And I felt like it wasn't her like as an individual, it was something deeper, and it was like a generational or family legacy
Yeah.
type of wound. And that's an interpretation. People may disagree with me. It doesn't really matter. I felt that, and I felt like um, I wanted to heal that in myself and step into become more empowered and really take care of myself and experience my joy and my radiant health and, empowerment, I guess.
Tell me more about that. Just tell me more about like really seeing that this was happening for you. I mean, and then you just knew you had to shift into something else. Like what happened? What was going on in that?
Um, I think it's because it kept showing up in my life,
Okay.
like that
Like,
pattern of feeling
like
being
what you
burned
noticing?
out, being tired, being drained out.
Okay.
That
Yeah, I
kept
was gonna ask,
showing up
are
in
you
my life, like even after I studied to be a therapist, and then I was working in another environment, and I just kept experiencing that on different levels.
mm-hmm.
And I felt like it's like the peeling the layers of an onion. So I was healing, but in successive layer, there were successive layers, or maybe it's going deeper
Mm-hmm.
each time. So that's why I felt like it wasn't just a one-time thing. Um, yeah. So it's been a whole journey, really. And yeah.
Do you feel like now your kids are out of the house and you have a lot more space and it's more just you and your husband, right? So are you seeing, seeing patterns still, or do you feel like it's it was really just the experience of having the kids in the home with you that made that more of part of that legacy, or did it shift when they left?
No, it didn't just miraculously go away when they left.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. Like I think these patterns can stay with us. And, in my practice, sometimes I've had parents in their 80s and children in their 50s, and they're still trying to unravel some of these patterns that they've had for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So because your kids turn 18 or 25 or 30 does not mean that, the dynamics they have changed by virtue of, circumstance or
Mm-hmm.
age, but it doesn't mean that those dynamics have been healed.
Right.
So, and that's one thing I think for parents, like that's one thing I really believe in. And that's in my story in Raising Wild Ones. I kind of wrote about my own journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it's so powerful when we work on healing ourselves and reconnecting with our own joy, reconnecting as a parent. I think that's the start. Like when we heal ourselves, it helps heal the next generation. It helps even in some way heal the previous generation. It helps heal all those around us.
Absolutely. That is like the whole purpose behind these conversations here is just to share this. I mean, the work you do, the work the people I've talked to is all about at some level healing the people you work with and helping give them the tools to heal, right? So, do you have, it may be hard to kind of sum this into one or two, but a resource or a tool or something where you're like, this has just made a huge shift for my clients or for myself in getting out of that overwhelm or that feeling stress pattern that you were talking about. Is there?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I don't know. I
What's one of your
yeah, because
favorites?
well, I have a couple of really good books. They're right over there. A couple of my favorite books. They're oldie, the classics.
Okay, share.
One for parents
Mm-hmm.
with and these are for school age children, I'd say, but they're okay. I'll just say it's How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and How to Listen So Kids Will Talk. You're probably,
I
I mean,
have,
they're very well-known books.
yes, I have heard of that one. How to Talk So Kids Will Listen. Uh-huh.
Yeah, Adele Faber and Elaine Maslick. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. It's a great book. It has like these cartoon vignettes in it. So, let's say a parent is frustrated because they can't get their kid to brush their teeth or whatever it may be. There's, so many situations like
Yeah.
that. And they have like cartoon vignettes. So how to, um, impose your will, or, like get your kid to do what you want, or how to talk to them in a way that's, at the same time respecting them,
Mm-hmm.
or set boundary. Anyway, I can't remember the exact situations right now, but
But you found some
they're
great
very
tools in there.
specific, situations that every parent encounters.
Yeah.
And so they have the way that we usually will do it, and the way an alternative way.
Okay.
And it's really, really great.
Yeah.
And they have the how to for teens. There's one for teens, and I think there's one for preschool children now too.
Uh-huh.
So it's
So you still use that book. You still reference it with your clients.
oh yeah, I'm always like it's always here, and I pull it out and show my clients.
That's
The
great.
other one is Kids Are Worth It, and that's another really oldie but goodie by Barbara Coloroso.
Kids are worth it. Okay.
And yeah, and the thing I usually mention is that she basically outlines 3 parenting styles.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the jellyfish parent, who basically, anything goes, dessert before lunch and go to bed at 11, or, there's not a lot of structure.
Mm-hmm.
And if the kid, throws a tantrum, well, we'll give in. And, so that's the jellyfish parent. And then there's the brick wall parent, right? My way or the highway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very rigid, and it's like black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the parent with backbone. So there is flexibility, and there are consequences, but that are appropriate to whatever is happening with the child, like, that are appropriate and also realist in terms of real life. They're not just punitive or made up,
Yeah.
but so that it's basically it's giving your child the gift of inner discipline, I think, is the subtitle of the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I really love that.
Intrinsic motivation, I find, is the most important. That being intrinsically motivated versus externally is
Hmm.
very, very huge for us
Hmm.
to figure
Yeah.
out.
And then there's another book, The Conscious Parent. Anyway, I could go on, but The Conscious Parent by
Shafali.
Shafali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Another
one was by my
excellent book.
bedside for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another amazing book. So,
Yeah. Definitely, if you're looking for some good parenting books, check those out. Those are, I know I haven't read the other two, I've heard of them, but Conscious Parenting, I have read that one. Um, I think I want to talk to you about this for just a moment, Gabrielle, because this has been interesting for me is, every kid is different. Of course, they're all unique. There's no, even twins, right? They're still going to be different. My daughter having special needs, there's even this other layer of whole uniqueness about how to even interact with her because of the verbal challenges and physical stuff. And so, I just want to get your reflection on, like, when a child just doesn't seem to follow any of the guidance, or because that was my experience, was I would research. I'm such a researcher, so I like to read every article out there, know all the possibilities of what people do, and then kind of find my way. But I always felt like I kept, like, it not working out, or it kept not being the right way to help or support her. It was so much trial and error. So what, like, when you feel that there's like this a situation where you know you really have to come back to yourself, what do you tell a parent who is just feeling totally lost, like there is no guidance out there for them, they just, they have a child who just kind of tests every aspect of.
so hard. Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't know if I just would tell them that outright, but the message I would want them to leave with, or I want them to have, is that to have confidence in themselves as a parent, to
Mhm.
find that confidence within. Because what can happen as well, and this is from personal experience, that my son, all throughout his elementary and a lot of his high school, he was he's very he's gifted. He was gifted, but he was always getting in trouble. Again, we were living in a small town school. Out of 4 little schools that were in this community, he had been to 4 of them and another one, because we kept, anyway, it was really, really hard getting all those calls from the
I can imagine
principals.
there's lots of stories with that one.
Anyway, so it was like, and he's such a good kid, but it was just the
Like, he was
dynamics of it.
challenged. He wasn't
It
challenged
was,
enough, do you think?
yeah, he was challenged, and he was getting bugged, and he was just, anyway, there's a whole dynamic going on. But
Yeah.
I had to, I believed in him, but I had so many people giving me advice. His
Mhm.
school psychologist, you have to get him tested, you have to, he's this and that, and you know you have to trust yourself as well, because I remember even like the kindergarten teacher saying, oh, I don't think he can count to past 4. And I don't know why she was saying that. It sounds irrelevant, but I knew at home he was counting way past 100, like, or whatever. It just, she wasn't seeing him, right? And
Yeah.
then, so she, which is fine, I understand, but it's like, when it causes problems and then you're getting, calls and you're told that he's this and he's that. So it really tested me, to believe in what I knew about him, and to also, I wanted him to know that I believed in him, that we believed in him.
I think that is the core message right there, right? Like
Yeah.
just to tune out everybody else's interpretations that don't feel right about your child, and yeah, come back
I
and
mean, seek help,
there.
get help. Like sometimes you can use help, and I'm not saying
Sure.
to
Oh,
scrap every, like, but
but know how
yeah,
to
the right
discern,
help.
right? Discern
Yeah,
if it is the
yeah,
right help.
yeah. And exactly. So I think that's so, so important. And each kid has a different learning style, a different personality, a different way of being in the world.
Hmm.
And yeah, so it's very complex. And sometimes I think people categorize way too quickly. I
I
mean, yeah.
I agree. Yeah, it's
And
interesting to. I think there's a level of standing up for your child that's important when they have special needs or they have challenges that aren't maybe as uh, common as other kids are having, right? And so there is this need to like stand up for their potential, because I do believe that they can get boxed in too early and have these limitations already put on them that actually aren't true, and then they end up self-fulfilling into that prophecy, right?
exactly, yeah. And my son, he's got his PhD in applied math, and he's married. He's doing all kinds of things. So yeah, he grew out of all that.
Yeah.
But there could have been another scenario, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
so yeah, yeah. And so basically what's important is not all the degrees and all that. It's the fact that he has that belief in himself, or that he's left with that.
Yeah, I think that's so key what you're saying with, all those little things about, do they know how to do this? Do they know how to do that? At some point, it really doesn't matter. I think getting to amplify what are they here for? What's
Mhm.
their gift? And how do you support that? And sure, maybe they're not great at doing certain tasks in school or whatever, but the more we can show up and see, I see your potential. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I see you, and I believe in you. And I think those are really important messages for parents. But you have to also believe in find your own confidence as a mom, as a dad.
Yeah,
And that's a journey. That can be a real journey, I think, too.
yeah. Yeah, that's been an interesting one too with our daughters, just being really clear, like I see her full potential. I see that she has the ability to speak clearly and, articulately. Someday that will happen. And then when you hear family members or even my husband sometimes kind of go into this, feeling bad for her, feeling that she can't act, be like her peers and do the things her peers do. And I think it's important not to pity them for where their challenges are, but really like just see that no, she can work through this. That she'll figure it out. We'll just need to support. And what does she need? What can we do to be more supportive here? And I get some kids have different degrees of these challenges, and we'll you know have to ride them through their life in different ways. But yeah, I do want to just make a stance for that with kids who have challenges, to really don't box them in and limit them with what you're seeing or what you're told is going to be the outcome, right? Like just
Hmm.
stand back, see, maybe not, right?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is really important too, because I experienced that with my daughter, and I think that's like part of my maybe family, the legacy healing the legacy I was talking about earlier,
Yeah.
is that like when you see there some struggles, or they're having a hard time, yeah, like you say, you might feel like you have to do it for them, or you pity them, or you pity, I don't know if for me it was pity, but kind of like you feel like you're afraid. Maybe I was afraid sometimes,
Definitely.
for them, and then I would feel like yeah, I have to like kind of protect them more than I did, like rather than seeing them as powerful,
Hmm.
potentially powerful, like that they have what they need within them to rise to this challenge.
Right.
And you don't necessarily know how, and they have maybe more than you have, like they have something beyond what you possess.
Yeah.
Like
And
they're facing a different challenge, and they have the ability and the skills, or maybe not the skills right away, but they have that strength, or
yeah.
whatever they need to face that challenge.
As you're talking, what really is coming through is this idea that, well, what if their challenge is perfect for them? It's exactly the challenge they need to go through to
Mhm.
be the adult they're going to be. Like, I don't know, I just
Mhm.
really felt that, even though we might be like, oh, I wish I could give them something better or help them work through this better, but maybe that is actually what, giving the loving support and compassion, respect you can with it, right? But just also knowing sometimes this is the challenge that's going to grow them into who they're really meant to be.
And that could be so hard, I think, as a mom, particularly because you hate to see your kids suffer. It's just like the most, and you want your, I don't know, for for you, I imagine as well, but I think for a lot of moms, our instincts is to jump right in there and like, okay, I want to soothe and I want to protect and help and do whatever I can to
You
make
know,
this pain go away.
it's a mix. It's an interesting because there's this, we had to be very present for her to physically not get hurt because her balance is just really off. She didn't walk till she was, 3.5, independently. So we couldn't just like let her go play on the playground like you'd see a 2-year-old just running up and down on the structure. And we couldn't do that because she could literally just not be aware of where she is and just fall off. That's how her balance was. And so you kind of, I actually don't have an instinct to want to be a helicopter parent. That's actually, I really thought, I'm going to be the parent that just kind of lets my kid, I'll have structure, but I'll also let them mess up, let them fall. But it was really hard on me because I felt guilty if I stepped back too much and she got hurt because, it's like, yes, I want her to grow, but then also this is not safe. It was finding that balance because I couldn't look outside of me to know what that was for her, right? Because she was so at a different level. And so
Mhm.
reconciling that, and I think, yeah, building up the confidence again in yourself and the intuition and the just trust that, okay, I can lean in. And I think really honestly trusting yourself first and foremost, even without kids in the picture, that that's really where it comes down to, right? Because once you can anchor that in, then you can offer the trust for your kids. I think it's important.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I think that dance, it's a dance, right, between a parent and child, and it's like, no, like what you're talking about is the circumstances or situation that's not safe for them, and that will change with age and depending on your child, and your daughter has special needs, so it's different, and it can be different for every child, and every child's needs will be slightly different. So
Yeah.
how much, that's it's yeah, you have to really get in there and you know learn it for yourself.
Yeah.
What is that? What is the how much do you get in? How do you get in? And it can be such a learning curve,
Hmm.
like for some children it might just come like easy, it might be just easy for some parent, like, but it's not always the case. And if you have to step in there and really learn it, and it's really a hard learning curve, then I think you're learning something very deep. Probably.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you're like, it's like the advanced levels of black belt type of levels, because it's that hard. You're learning something that's where I think parents can start being hard on themselves and put themselves down and say, why is it so hard for me, like compared to when you compare to others?
Totally. Right.
But they're not in your shoes, and they're not in your daughter's shoes, like they're not living what you're living. So
Yeah, and I want to make a stance for moms too to really get the support, whether it is a therapist you work with or having a really strong network. Like that is the piece I felt was missing for me, was just really having that person I could reach out to. I had for a little bit kind of wavered in and out of my life. I didn't have a stable, like support network. And so I think that is really where the key is to have that stable support network, even if it's hiring a therapist or hiring a coach or consultant or somebody who you're like, I can get reflection, because sometimes we get so internal. So, Gabrielle,
Absolutely. I absolutely feel like, and I love the title of this series. It takes a village,
build your village.
or I'm getting it wrong.
Oh,
Build
build
your
your village.
village.
Yeah,
Sorry, it just build your village. It speaks to me so much because I feel like so many parents are isolated, and I did experience that isolation at times. And we need the opposite. We do need people around us. We need support. We need connection. Even if we need people to also be involved with our children. I think
really. Yeah,
grandparents and a lot of us don't have that community right around. We have to build it. So
right. It's like I had the awareness that, I'm not crazy living in a single home environment with only one other parent. That's crazy. Like that's why we feel, I think, the insanity of trying to do it all, like be five different hats. It is too much. And so I really hope, if this resonates with you, to reach out to Gabrielle. I know, Gabrielle, you have a website you can share, a way that people can get in touch with you if they want to, maybe learn more about your work with helping families and couples. I think it's beautiful work that you're doing.
thank you. Yeah. Well, I guess you can post my website below. So it's Gabrielle B. Taylor. Do you want me to say my website? Is that
Sure,
what you're
Gabrielle
asking?
B. Taylor. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
GabrielleBTaylor.com. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And is there anything you want to share just in closing? Any last thoughts or anything you want us to know about before we complete?
Um, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Sarah. I'm really, really, I
Mm,
feel honored and very happy. Um,
thank you.
I, I will share, I'm launching a program for women empaths if you want to heal your relationship.
Mm,
So you can find out more on my website. It's a 12-week program. So even if you can't convince your partner to come into therapy or coaching, this is a program that's just for you.
so
There's a lot you can do on your own to
yeah,
shift the dynamics of your relationship. So I'm
Gabrielle,
really passionate about that, and so I decided to put together a program.
I love it. And you do a lot of work with empaths. Like that is your focus, right? Is empower.
Yeah, yeah, empaths in relationship. So is the name of my business. So yeah, I work with specifically with empaths in relationship because there's a particular dynamic that will often happen
Yeah.
for empaths in relationships. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I can attest to that as a severe empath, I call myself sometimes. So I'm so grateful for the work you're doing and for showing up today and letting us dive into your world for a bit and see what, raising kids and being in your work really looks like from your perspective. So thank you, Gabrielle. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being here. If you have a comment, leave a comment below. And if you want to get in touch with Gabrielle, please do. And I look forward to chatting with you all next time. Take care and
Bye, Sarah. Thanks.
see you next time. Bye.